Hello, everyone. I am Elena, your host for today's lesson, and I am so glad you are here because today we are going to work on something that makes an enormous difference to how natural your English sounds, and that most learners have never been explicitly taught: adverbs that change everything. Here is what I mean by that. Think about these two sentences: I am tired, and I am absolutely exhausted. Both describe the same feeling, but the second one sounds completely different. It sounds more vivid, more real, more like something a native speaker would actually say. The difference is not just the adjective, it is the adverb sitting in front of it. Or think about these: it is wrong versus it is completely wrong. I disagree versus I strongly disagree. She is good at her job versus she is remarkably good at her job. In every case, the adverb does not just add more meaning, it changes the entire texture and weight of what is being said. And here is what most learners do not know. Adverbs in English are not random. They follow patterns. Certain adverbs go with certain adjectives and verbs, and using the wrong combination sounds immediately unnatural to a native speaker, even if they cannot explain why. You would never say, I am very exhausted, because exhausted is already an extreme word, and very does not fit it. You would say, absolutely exhausted. And you would never say, I am deeply recommended, because deeply collocates with emotions, not evaluations. You would say, highly recommended. Today, we are going to learn those patterns, 4 categories of adverbs, each one with a clear logic and real sentences and conversations to shadow. By the end of this session, you will not just know these adverbs, you will know which ones go together and why, and your English will sound noticeably more natural for it. And here is one more thing worth knowing before we start. The adverbs in today's session are not advanced vocabulary in the sense of being rare or obscure. Absolutely, slightly, barely, deeply. These are everyday words. You have heard them hundreds of times. But knowing a word and knowing exactly when and how to use it are completely different things. Today we are going to close that gap, not by memorizing rules, but by hearing and saying the right adverb in the right context so many times that the choice starts to feel obvious. Before we begin, please subscribe to English in Moments and press the bell icon so you never miss a new lesson. We post every single day, and every lesson is built to give you real, practical English you can use immediately. Now find somewhere you can speak out loud. Take a breath, and let us begin. Category 1, intensifiers. Adverbs that make things stronger. Intensifiers add force and weight to what you are saying. And the most important thing to understand about intensifiers in English is that they do not all work with all adjectives. In English, adjectives fall into 2 groups: gradable adjectives and ungradable adjectives. Gradable adjectives describe qualities on a scale. You can be a little cold or very cold. Cold is gradable. With gradable adjectives, you use very, really, extremely, quite. Ungradable adjectives are already at the extreme end of the scale. Exhausted already means completely drained. Perfect means without any flaw. Impossible means it cannot be done. With ungradable adjectives, you do not use very. You use absolutely, completely, totally, utterly, entirely. This is why a native speaker says absolutely exhausted, not very exhausted, and absolutely perfect, not very perfect, and completely impossible, not very impossible. Let us start with absolutely. Absolutely is the most powerful intensifier in everyday English. It works with ungradable adjectives and also as a standalone response, meaning yes, completely. Say it. I am absolutely exhausted after this week. Repeat that. I am absolutely exhausted after this week. Repeat after me. That is absolutely impossible given our timeline. Again, that is absolutely impossible given our timeline. The view was absolutely breathtaking. One more time. The view was absolutely breathtaking. Say it. You are absolutely right. Your turn. You are absolutely right. Repeat after me. She was absolutely furious when she found out. Say it back. She was absolutely furious when she found out. Absolutely. That is exactly how I see it too. Echo that. Absolutely. That is exactly how I see it too. Say it. The whole situation was absolutely ridiculous. Repeat that. The whole situation was absolutely ridiculous. Repeat after me. I am absolutely certain this is the right decision. Again, I am absolutely certain this is the right decision. Notice how absolutely at the start of a sentence gives it weight and depth. It tells the listener that a thoughtful answer is coming. It is not hesitation, it is engagement. Now, completely. Completely means in every part, with nothing left out. It works with ungradable adjectives and also with verbs to describe a total action. I completely forgot about the meeting. One more time. I completely forgot about the meeting. Say it. She was completely wrong about the situation. Your turn. She was completely wrong about the situation. Repeat after me. He has completely changed since last year. Say it back. He has completely changed since last year. I completely understand why you feel that way. Echo that. I completely understand why you feel that way. Say it. The plan fell apart completely. Repeat that. The plan fell apart completely. Repeat after me. She is completely dedicated to what she does. Again, she is completely dedicated to what she does. I was completely unaware of the problem until this morning. One more time. I was completely unaware of the problem until this morning. Now, totally. Totally is similar to completely and particularly common in informal spoken English. It also works as a standalone agreement response. Say it. I totally agree with everything you said. Your turn. I totally agree with everything you said. Repeat after me. She totally nailed the presentation. Say it back. She totally nailed the presentation. I was totally unprepared for how difficult it would be. Echo that. I was totally unprepared for how difficult it would be. Say it. That is totally fine. Do not worry about it at all. Repeat that. That is totally fine. Do not worry about it at all. Repeat after me. He was totally absorbed in what he was reading. Again, he was totally absorbed in what he was reading. Now, utterly. Utterly is stronger and more emphatic than completely. It often appears in more formal or literary contexts and carries a sense of complete and sometimes shocking totality. I was utterly speechless when I heard the news. One more time. I was utterly speechless when I heard the news. Say it. The whole experience was utterly overwhelming. Your turn. The whole experience was utterly overwhelming. Repeat after me. She was utterly determined to finish what she had started. Say it back. She was utterly determined to finish what she had started. The result was utterly unexpected. Echo that. The result was utterly unexpected. Say it. He seemed utterly unaware of the impact he was having. Repeat that. He seemed utterly unaware of the impact he was having. Repeat after me. The transformation was utterly remarkable to witness. Again, the transformation was utterly remarkable to witness. I was utterly wrong, and I am not afraid to admit it. One more time. I was utterly wrong, and I am not afraid to admit it. Say it. She is utterly reliable in every situation. Your turn. She is utterly reliable in every situation. Repeat after me. The suggestion was utterly out of the question. Say it back. The suggestion was utterly out of the question. I found the whole experience utterly exhausting, but utterly worthwhile. Echo that. I found the whole experience utterly exhausting, but utterly worthwhile. Say it. He seemed utterly at ease despite the pressure. Repeat that. He seemed utterly at ease despite the pressure. And entirely means in a complete and total way, often used to emphasize that something applies with no exceptions. Repeat after me. That is entirely up to you. Again, that is entirely up to you. I entirely agree with your assessment. One more time. I entirely agree with your assessment. Say it. The decision was entirely the right one. Your turn. The decision was entirely the right one. Repeat after me. That is not entirely what I meant. Say it back. That is not entirely what I meant. The responsibility rests entirely with the team that made the call. Echo that. The responsibility rests entirely with the team that made the call. Say it. That is entirely your decision, and I will support whatever you choose. Repeat that. That is entirely your decision, and I will support whatever you choose. Repeat after me. The result was not entirely what we expected, but it was entirely acceptable. Again, the result was not entirely what we expected, but it was entirely acceptable. I am not entirely sure where this idea came from, but I am entirely on board with it. One more time. I am not entirely sure where this idea came from, but I am entirely on board with it. Say it. She handled it entirely on her own, which is entirely to her credit. Your turn. She handled it entirely on her own, which is entirely to her credit. Repeat after me. I am entirely focused on what happens next. Say it back. I am entirely focused on what happens next. That is not entirely accurate, but it is not entirely wrong either. Echo that. That is not entirely accurate, but it is not entirely wrong either. Now let us practice the key distinction. Very versus absolutely with gradable and ungradable adjectives. Say it. I am very tired. Repeat that. I am very tired. Repeat after me. I am absolutely exhausted. Again, I am absolutely exhausted. It was very cold. One more time. It was very cold. Say it. It was absolutely freezing. Your turn. It was absolutely freezing. Repeat after me. She was very angry. Say it back. She was very angry. She was absolutely furious. Echo that. She was absolutely furious. Say it. The food was very good. Repeat that. The food was very good. Repeat after me. The food was absolutely outstanding. Again, the food was absolutely outstanding. It is very difficult. One more time. It is very difficult. Say it. It is completely impossible. Your turn. It is completely impossible. Let us add more intensifier practice. Repeat after me. I am completely focused on getting this right. Say it back. I am completely focused on getting this right. The whole thing was utterly chaotic from start to finish. Echo that. The whole thing was utterly chaotic from start to finish. Say it. She is completely at ease in front of an audience. Repeat that. She is completely at ease in front of an audience. Repeat after me. I was utterly lost in the first few sessions. Again, I was utterly lost in the first few sessions. He has totally transformed the way the team operates. One more time. He has totally transformed the way the team operates. Say it. That is entirely your call. I will support whatever you decide. Your turn. That is entirely your call. I will support whatever you decide. Repeat after me. I am totally on board with that plan. Say it back. I am totally on board with that plan. She was absolutely determined not to give up. Echo that. She was absolutely determined not to give up. Let us practice intensifiers as standalone responses too. Say it. Did you enjoy it? Absolutely. Repeat that. Absolutely. Repeat after me. Do you agree? Completely. Again, completely. Is that right? Totally. One more time. Totally. Say it. Are you sure? Entirely. Your turn. Entirely. These single word responses are some of the most natural sounding things you can say in English. Now shadow this full intensifiers conversation. How was the conference? Absolutely exhausting, honestly. There was so much to take in. Was it worth going? Completely. The content was utterly fascinating. Some of the sessions were absolutely outstanding. Any lowlights? One panel was totally disorganized and went on far too long, but in the end, the whole experience was entirely positive. I am really glad you went. So am I. I came back absolutely inspired. Let us add one more intensifier sequence, this one covering common collocations you will hear constantly. Repeat after me. She is absolutely brilliant at her job. Say it back. She is absolutely brilliant at her job. The concert was utterly magnificent. Echo that. The concert was utterly magnificent. Say it. I am completely confident we are heading in the right direction. Repeat that. I am completely confident we are heading in the right direction. Repeat after me. The results were totally unexpected by everyone involved. Again. The results were totally unexpected by everyone involved. She has been entirely honest throughout the whole process. One more time. She has been entirely honest throughout the whole process. Say it. That proposal is absolutely out of the question. Your turn. That proposal is absolutely out of the question. Repeat after me. He was completely silent for a long time before answering. Say it back. He was completely silent for a long time before answering. The experience was utterly transformative. Echo that. The experience was utterly transformative. Say it. I am totally committed to making this work. Repeat that. I am totally committed to making this work. Repeat after me. That is entirely beside the point. Again, that is entirely beside the point. Now shadow a second intensifier's conversation. This one about a film or show someone watched. Was it good? Absolutely incredible. I was completely gripped from the first minute. Did it live up to the hype? Entirely. I was slightly skeptical going in, but I was utterly wrong. Strong recommendation then. Totally. I barely moved from the sofa for 4 hours. That is completely ridiculous. In the best possible way. The ending was absolutely perfect. I was genuinely speechless. I need to watch it. You absolutely do. Do not let anyone spoil it for you. Category 2, softeners. Adverbs that make things gentler. If intensifiers are about turning up the volume, softeners are about turning it down. They reduce the force of what you are saying. They make statements more polite, more tentative, more appropriate in professional or sensitive situations. And they are one of the clearest markers of advanced English because they show the speaker is aware of the listener's feelings. Starting with slightly. Slightly means a small amount, a little. It is the gentlest softener and is perfect when you want to raise a concern or describe a difference without making it a big deal. One more time. I am slightly concerned about the timeline. Say it. That is slightly different from what I expected. Your turn. That is slightly different from what I expected. Repeat after me. She seemed slightly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Say it back. She seemed slightly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. I find this slightly confusing. Could you explain it again? Echo that. I find this slightly confusing. Could you explain it again? Say it. The results are slightly below what we were hoping for. Repeat that. The results are slightly below what we were hoping for. Repeat after me. I am slightly worried about how this is going to land. Again. I am slightly worried about how this is going to land. Now, fairly. Fairly means to a reasonable degree. It suggests something is at a good but not exceptional level. In British English, it is particularly common and versatile. She is fairly confident about the outcome. One more time. She is fairly confident about the outcome. Say it. The journey was fairly straightforward once we found the right road. Your turn. The journey was fairly straightforward once we found the right road. Repeat after me. I am fairly certain this is the right approach. Say it back. I am fairly certain this is the right approach. He speaks English fairly well for someone who has only been learning for 2 years. Echo that. He speaks English fairly well for someone who has only been learning for 2 years. Say it. The meeting was fairly productive, all things considered. Repeat that. The meeting was fairly productive, all things considered. Repeat after me. It is fairly common for this to happen at this stage. Again, it is fairly common for this to happen at this stage. Now, rather. Rather works in 2 directions. In British English, it often softens a statement while adding a slight sense of pleasant surprise. It is rather good means it is better than I expected. But rather also adds emphasis to mild criticism. It is rather rude means it is noticeably rude. That is rather a good idea, actually. One more time. That is rather a good idea, actually. Say it. I found the whole situation rather uncomfortable. Your turn. I found the whole situation rather uncomfortable. Repeat after me. She is rather talented for someone so early in her career. Say it back. She is rather talented for someone so early in her career. That was rather unexpected. Echo that. That was rather unexpected. Say it. I thought it was rather well handled given the circumstances. Repeat that. I thought it was rather well handled given the circumstances. Repeat after me. He can be rather direct, which takes some getting used to. Again, he can be rather direct, which takes some getting used to. Now, somewhat. Somewhat is more formal than slightly or fairly, and particularly common in professional writing and speech. It suggests a moderate degree without committing to a strong position. I am somewhat surprised by the response we received. One more time. I am somewhat surprised by the response we received. Say it. The situation is somewhat more complex than it first appeared. Your turn. The situation is somewhat more complex than it first appeared. Repeat after me. She seemed somewhat reluctant to commit to a timeline. Say it back. She seemed somewhat reluctant to commit to a timeline. The results are somewhat encouraging, but not yet conclusive. Echo that. The results are somewhat encouraging, but not yet conclusive. Say it. The feedback was somewhat mixed, which is somewhat better than entirely negative. Repeat that. The feedback was somewhat mixed, which is somewhat better than entirely negative. Repeat after me. I am somewhat skeptical, but genuinely open to being persuaded. Again, I am somewhat skeptical, but genuinely open to being persuaded. The situation is somewhat unusual, but not entirely without precedent. One more time. The situation is somewhat unusual, but not entirely without precedent. Say it. She was somewhat taken aback by the speed of the decision. Your turn. She was somewhat taken aback by the speed of the decision. Repeat after me. I find his approach somewhat rigid, but his intentions are entirely good. Say it back. I find his approach somewhat rigid, but his intentions are entirely good. The solution is somewhat obvious in hindsight. Echo that. The solution is somewhat obvious in hindsight. Now, a little A little is the most conversational of the softeners and the most natural in everyday speech. It is warm and human and often used when you want to sound honest without sounding harsh. Say it. I am a little nervous about how it is going to go. Repeat that. I am a little nervous about how it is going to go. Repeat after me. That is a little more expensive than I was expecting. Again. That is a little more expensive than I was expecting. I am a little confused about what happens next. One more time. I am a little confused about what happens next. Say it. She seemed a little distracted during the meeting. Your turn. She seemed a little distracted during the meeting. Repeat after me. He is a little hard to read, but worth getting to know. Say it back. He is a little hard to read, but worth getting to know. I am slightly behind on the project, but catching up. Echo that. I am slightly behind on the project, but catching up. Say it. She is fairly new to this kind of work. Repeat that. She is fairly new to this kind of work. Repeat after me. I am a little surprised he did not say anything at the time. Again. I am a little surprised he did not say anything at the time. That is somewhat more complicated than I had anticipated. One more time. That is somewhat more complicated than I had anticipated. Say it. I am rather fond of that approach, actually. Your turn. I am rather fond of that approach, actually. Repeat after me. I am slightly hesitant about committing before I have more information. Say it back. I am slightly hesitant about committing before I have more information. It is rather a long way to go for one meeting. Echo that. It is rather a long way to go for one meeting. Say it. I find formal presentations somewhat nerve-wracking if I am honest. Repeat that. I find formal presentations somewhat nerve-wracking if I am honest. Repeat after me. I am a little emotional about this if I am honest. Again. I am a little emotional about this if I am honest. She is a little quieter than usual, but she is fine. One more time. She is a little quieter than usual, but she is fine. Say it. I am a little stuck on this one. Can I ask for your opinion? Your turn. I am a little stuck on this one. Can I ask for your opinion? Repeat after me. That was a little more intense than I expected. Say it back. That was a little more intense than I expected. I am a little early, which is unlike me. Echo that. I am a little early, which is unlike me. Say it. He is a little formal at first, but incredibly warm once he relaxes. Repeat that. He is a little formal at first, but incredibly warm once he relaxes. Repeat after me. I am a little proud of myself for finishing that. Again. I am a little proud of myself for finishing that. She seemed a little unsure, but committed entirely to the idea. One more time. She seemed a little unsure, but committed entirely to the idea. Let us also practice replacing strong statements with softened versions. Say it. I disagree. The softened version. I slightly disagree. Your turn. I slightly disagree. Repeat after me. I am worried. The softened version. I am a little worried. Say it back. I am a little worried. That is wrong. The softened version. That is slightly off. Echo that. That is slightly off. Say it. It is difficult. The softened version. It is fairly challenging. Repeat that. It is fairly challenging. Repeat after me. I am confused. The softened version. I am a little unclear on that point. Again. I am a little unclear on that point. Now shadow this full softeners conversation. How are you finding the new role? Fairly well, honestly. It is a little more demanding than I expected. Is that a bad thing? Not entirely. I am slightly concerned about the workload long term, but I am fairly confident I can manage it. How is the team? Rather good, actually. I was somewhat uncertain at first, but everyone has been very welcoming. That is encouraging. I am a little envious, to be honest. It sounds like a fairly exciting place to be. It is. I am fairly happy I made the change. One more time. I am slightly concerned about the feasibility of this within the time frame. Say it. She was fairly pleased with the outcome, but felt it could have gone further. Your turn. She was fairly pleased with the outcome, but felt it could have gone further. Repeat after me. That is somewhat outside the scope of what we originally agreed. Say it back. That is somewhat outside the scope of what we originally agreed. I find the second proposal rather more compelling than the first. Echo that. I find the second proposal rather more compelling than the first. Say it. He is a little reluctant to commit without seeing the full numbers. Repeat that. He is a little reluctant to commit without seeing the full numbers. Repeat after me. I am fairly optimistic, but I want to manage expectations carefully. Again. I am fairly optimistic, but I want to manage expectations carefully. The response from the client was somewhat mixed. One more time. The response from the client was somewhat mixed. Say it. I am a little unsure how to proceed from here. Your turn. I am a little unsure how to proceed from here. Repeat after me. That is slightly more than we had budgeted for. Say it back. That is slightly more than we had budgeted for. She seemed rather distracted today, which was a little unusual. Echo that. She seemed rather distracted today, which was a little unusual. Now shadow a second softeners conversation. This one about giving gentle feedback. What did you think of the presentation? It was fairly good overall. There were a few things I found slightly unclear. Like what? The opening was a little slow to get to the main point. I see. Anything else? The data section was rather dense. It might work better with a little more spacing. That is helpful. I am somewhat concerned about the ending, too. It felt a little abrupt. I know what you mean. I am fairly confident those things are easy to fix, though. The core content is really strong. That is reassuring. I was a little worried you were going to say something worse. Not at all. It is a fairly solid piece of work. Say it. I am a little out of practice, but getting back into it. Repeat that. I am a little out of practice, but getting back into it. Repeat after me. She is fairly good with numbers, but not particularly passionate about them. Again. She is fairly good with numbers, but not particularly passionate about them. I am slightly disappointed, but not surprised. One more time. I am slightly disappointed, but not surprised. Say it. That is rather more work than I had expected for what seemed like a simple task. Your turn. That is rather more work than I had expected for what seemed like a simple task. Repeat after me. I am somewhat torn between two options that are both fairly appealing. Say it back. I am somewhat torn between two options that are both fairly appealing. He is a little more reserved than his brother, but equally warm once you get to know him. Echo that. He is a little more reserved than his brother, but equally warm once you get to know him. Say it. I am fairly certain I have seen this film before. Repeat that. I am fairly certain I have seen this film before. Repeat after me. It was a slightly awkward moment, but everyone handled it rather well. Again. It was a slightly awkward moment, but everyone handled it rather well. Before we move into category 3, I want to pause and acknowledge something. You have now practiced 10 adverbs across 2 complete categories: absolutely, completely, totally, utterly, entirely, and slightly, fairly, rather, somewhat, a little. That is a significant range of vocabulary. And more importantly, you have practiced the logic behind them. Intensifiers go with ungradable adjectives. Softeners reduce the force of a statement. Every sentence you shadowed was building those patterns into your instinct. Well done for staying with it. The second half is just as useful. Category 3. Near-miss adverbs. Almost, but not quite. This category covers adverbs that describe things close to a threshold, but either falling just short or just barely crossing it. They are some of the most useful adverbs in everyday English because life is full of near misses and close calls. Starting with barely and hardly. Barely and hardly are close synonyms. Both mean almost not, just enough, but only just. I barely slept means I slept almost not at all. I hardly know her means I know her almost not at all. Both are already negative in meaning. You do not add not to them. I barely slept is correct. I barely did not sleep is wrong. One more time. I barely slept last night. Say it. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Your turn. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Repeat after me. She barely had time to finish before the deadline. Say it back. She barely had time to finish before the deadline. He hardly ever misses a deadline. Echo that. He hardly ever misses a deadline. Say it. I barely know him, but he seems very capable. Repeat that. I barely know him, but he seems very capable. Repeat after me. We had barely started when the meeting was called to an end. Again. We had barely started when the meeting was called to an end. I can hardly wait to see how it turns out. One more time. I can hardly wait to see how it turns out. Say it. She barely flinched when they told her the news. Your turn. She barely flinched when they told her the news. Repeat after me. I barely had enough time to read it properly before the meeting. Say it back. I barely had enough time to read it properly before the meeting. She hardly ever makes the same mistake twice. Echo that. She hardly ever makes the same mistake twice. Say it. He was barely visible through the fog, but we knew he was there. Repeat that. He was barely visible through the fog, but we knew he was there. Repeat after me. I could hardly keep my eyes open by the end of the session. Again, I could hardly keep my eyes open by the end of the session. We had barely unpacked when the next project arrived. One more time. We had barely unpacked when the next project arrived. Say it. She hardly spoke for the first hour, but then opened up completely. Your turn. She hardly spoke for the first hour, but then opened up completely. Repeat after me. I barely noticed the change at first. Say it back. I barely noticed the change at first. He hardly takes any credit for what he has achieved. Echo that. He hardly takes any credit for what he has achieved. Now, nearly and almost. Nearly and almost mean very close to, but not quite there. They describe things that are close to being true or close to happening, but have not quite reached the threshold. Say it. I nearly missed the train this morning. Repeat that. I nearly missed the train this morning. Repeat after me. She almost said something, but stopped herself at the last moment. Again, she almost said something, but stopped herself at the last moment. I have nearly finished the report. Just another hour. One more time. I have nearly finished the report. Just another hour. Say it. That was almost perfect. Just one small thing to adjust. Your turn. That was almost perfect. Just one small thing to adjust. Repeat after me. He nearly got the promotion, but someone else was chosen at the last stage. Say it back. He nearly got the promotion, but someone else was chosen at the last stage. We nearly had it working. We were so close. Echo that. We nearly had it working. We were so close. Now, the critical distinction, barely versus nearly. Barely and nearly approach the same threshold from opposite directions. Barely means almost not. You are just above zero. Barely passed means you passed, but only just. Nearly means almost yes. You did not quite reach it. Nearly passed means you did not pass, but came close. These are opposites. I barely passed is very different from I nearly passed. Say it. She barely passed the exam. Repeat that. She barely passed the exam. Repeat after me. She nearly passed the exam. Again, she nearly passed the exam. I barely made it on time. One more time. I barely made it on time. Say it. I nearly made it on time. Your turn. I nearly made it on time. Repeat after me. He barely spoke during the whole meeting. Say it back. He barely spoke during the whole meeting. He nearly spoke up, but thought better of it. Echo that. He nearly spoke up, but thought better of it. Say it. She almost called it off at the last minute, but something held her back. Repeat that. She almost called it off at the last minute, but something held her back. Repeat after me. I nearly said the wrong thing, but caught myself just in time. Again, I nearly said the wrong thing, but caught myself just in time. We are almost at the point where we can move to the next stage. One more time. We are almost at the point where we can move to the next stage. Say it. He nearly gave up 3 times before he got there. Your turn. He nearly gave up 3 times before he got there. Repeat after me. I almost forgot how much I enjoy this kind of work. Say it back. I almost forgot how much I enjoy this kind of work. She nearly got there on the first attempt, which is remarkable for someone so new. Echo that. She nearly got there on the first attempt, which is remarkable for someone so new. Say it. I almost missed the most important part of what he was saying. Repeat that. I almost missed the most important part of what he was saying. And scarcely. Scarcely is a more formal version of barely, particularly common in formal writing and elevated speech. It creates a sense of drama or disbelief. Repeat after me. I had scarcely arrived when the problems began. Again, I had scarcely arrived when the problems began. She scarcely recognized him after so many years. One more time. She scarcely recognized him after so many years. Say it. There was scarcely enough time to prepare properly. Your turn. There was scarcely enough time to prepare properly. Repeat after me. I could scarcely believe my eyes when I saw the results. Say it back. I could scarcely believe my eyes when I saw the results. I had scarcely begun when I realized I had misunderstood the brief entirely. Echo that. I had scarcely begun when I realized I had misunderstood the brief entirely. Say it. She scarcely had time to think before the next challenge arrived. Repeat that. She scarcely had time to think before the next challenge arrived. Repeat after me. We could scarcely believe the results when they came in. Again, we could scarcely believe the results when they came in. There was scarcely a person in the room who was not moved by what she said. One more time. There was scarcely a person in the room who was not moved by what she said. Say it. He had scarcely spoken for an hour before everything poured out at once. Your turn. He had scarcely spoken for an hour before everything poured out at once. Repeat after me. I barely got through the presentation without losing my place. Say it back. I barely got through the presentation without losing my place. She nearly called off the whole event. Echo that. She nearly called off the whole event. Say it. He hardly ever takes time off, and it shows. Repeat that. He hardly ever takes time off, and it shows. Repeat after me. I almost forgot the most important part. Again, I almost forgot the most important part. There was barely enough time to say goodbye properly. One more time. There was barely enough time to say goodbye properly. Say it. She had scarcely settled in when a new challenge arrived. Your turn. She had scarcely settled in when a new challenge arrived. Repeat after me. I nearly said the wrong name. Say it back. I nearly said the wrong name. I can barely hear you. Can you speak up? Echo that. I can barely hear you. Can you speak up? Let us do one more extended nearly versus barely sequence before the conversation. This one contrasting the two directly in paired situations. Shadow both versions of each pair carefully and notice the completely different meaning. Say it. I barely finished it in time. Repeat that. I barely finished it in time. Repeat after me. I nearly finished it in time. Again. I nearly finished it in time. She barely passed. One more time. She barely passed. Say it. She nearly passed. Your turn. She nearly passed. Repeat after me. I barely spoke to him. Say it back. I barely spoke to him. I nearly spoke to him. Echo that. I nearly spoke to him. Say it. We barely made it to the end. Repeat that. We barely made it to the end. Repeat after me. We nearly made it to the end. Again. We nearly made it to the end. He barely survived the first year. One more time. He barely survived the first year. Say it. He nearly did not survive the first year. Your turn. He nearly did not survive the first year. In every pair, the first sentence means it happened, but only just. The second means it almost happened, but did not. That single direction change is the whole difference between barely and nearly. And hearing them in pairs like this is the fastest way to make that difference permanent in your memory. Now shadow this full near-miss adverbs conversation. How did the deadline go? We barely made it. I was almost certain we were going to miss it. What happened? We nearly lost the whole document the night before. I could hardly sleep after that. That sounds stressful. It was. I barely ate the next day. I was so focused. But you got there. We did. It was almost perfect in the end. Just a few tiny things. That is all you can ask for, really. Hardly anyone delivers something flawless the first time. Repeat after me. I barely recognized him after so many years. Say it back. I barely recognized him after so many years. She almost decided not to go, and now she says it changed her life. Echo that. She almost decided not to go, and now she says it changed her life. Say it. We had scarcely finished the first phase when the next one began. Repeat that. We had scarcely finished the first phase when the next one began. Repeat after me. I nearly called the whole thing off the night before. Again. I nearly called the whole thing off the night before. He hardly ever complains, which makes it noticeable when he does. One more time. He hardly ever complains, which makes it noticeable when he does. Say it. I can barely remember what it was like before we changed the system. Your turn. I can barely remember what it was like before we changed the system. Repeat after me. She almost achieved something remarkable, and that almost is worth something. Say it back. She almost achieved something remarkable, and that almost is worth something. There was barely a moment to breathe all week. Echo that. There was barely a moment to breathe all week. Say it. I nearly stopped halfway through, but something made me keep going. Repeat that. I nearly stopped halfway through, but something made me keep going. Now shadow a second near-miss adverbs conversation. This one about a journey that almost went wrong. How was the trip? We barely made it to the airport. What happened? We had scarcely left the house when we realized someone had left something behind. Were you nearly late? So nearly. I could hardly look at the departure board. And the flight? We almost missed boarding. We were the last ones on. That sounds incredibly stressful. It was. I could barely speak when we finally sat down. But it worked out. It did. And we nearly did not have this story to tell, which would have been a shame. Absolutely. Category 4. Precision adverbs. Exactly how much and in what way? This final category is different from the others. These adverbs do not just describe degree. They describe the quality and nature of something. And they collocate with specific words in largely fixed ways. Using the wrong precision adverb with the wrong adjective or verb is one of the clearest signs that a speaker is still at the learner stage. Getting them right is one of the clearest signs that you are not. Starting with deeply. Deeply collocates with feelings and emotional states. You can be deeply moved, deeply concerned, deeply sorry, deeply committed, deeply troubled. Deeply is about emotional and personal depth. What deeply does not collocate with, you cannot say deeply recommended or deeply talented. Those are evaluative words, not emotional ones. Use highly for those. Repeat after me. I was deeply moved by what she said. Again, I was deeply moved by what she said. She is deeply committed to making this work. One more time. She is deeply committed to making this work. Say it. I am deeply sorry for the way this was handled. Your turn. I am deeply sorry for the way this was handled. Repeat after me. He is deeply concerned about the direction things are taking. Say it back. He is deeply concerned about the direction things are taking. I am deeply grateful for everything you have done. Echo that. I am deeply grateful for everything you have done. Say it. She was deeply troubled by what she had witnessed. Repeat that. She was deeply troubled by what she had witnessed. Repeat after me. I deeply regret not saying something sooner. Again, I deeply regret not saying something sooner. I am deeply aware of how much effort went into this. One more time. I am deeply aware of how much effort went into this. Say it. She is deeply invested in the outcome of this project. Your turn. She is deeply invested in the outcome of this project. Repeat after me. I deeply appreciate everything you have done to help. Say it back. I deeply appreciate everything you have done to help. He was deeply affected by the experience, even years later. Echo that. He was deeply affected by the experience, even years later. Say it. I am deeply curious about how this is going to unfold. Repeat that. I am deeply curious about how this is going to unfold. Repeat after me. She is deeply respected in her community. Again, she is deeply respected in her community. I deeply value the trust we have built together over time. One more time. I deeply value the trust we have built together over time. Now strongly. Strongly collocates with verbs of opinion and recommendation. You strongly believe, strongly disagree, strongly recommend, strongly suggest, strongly feel. Strongly is about conviction and force of opinion. Say it. I strongly believe this is the right approach. Your turn. I strongly believe this is the right approach. Repeat after me. I strongly recommend reading this before the meeting. Say it back. I strongly recommend reading this before the meeting. She strongly disagrees with the decision. Echo that. She strongly disagrees with the decision. Say it. I strongly suggest we revisit this before going any further. Repeat that. I strongly suggest we revisit this before going any further. Repeat after me. He strongly objects to being left out of the conversation. Again, he strongly objects to being left out of the conversation. I strongly feel that a different approach is needed here. One more time. I strongly feel that a different approach is needed here. Say it. I strongly encourage you to look into this before making a final decision. Your turn. I strongly encourage you to look into this before making a final decision. Repeat after me. She strongly opposes any changes to the original plan. Say it back. She strongly opposes any changes to the original plan. I strongly suspect there is more to this story than we are being told. Echo that. I strongly suspect there is more to this story than we are being told. Say it. We strongly advise against proceeding without legal advice. Repeat that. We strongly advise against proceeding without legal advice. Repeat after me. He strongly values honesty above almost everything else. Again, he strongly values honesty above almost everything else. I strongly sense that something has shifted in the dynamic. One more time. I strongly sense that something has shifted in the dynamic. Now highly collocates with evaluative words that assess quality or likelihood. Highly recommended. Highly unlikely. Highly skilled. Highly effective. Highly regarded. Highly is about quality judgment and probability assessment. Say it. She is highly skilled in exactly what we need. Your turn. She is highly skilled in exactly what we need. Repeat after me. I would highly recommend this course to anyone at B1 or B2 level. Say it back. I would highly recommend this course to anyone at B1 or B2 level. It is highly unlikely that the decision will change now. Echo that. It is highly unlikely that the decision will change now. Say it. He is highly regarded in his field. Repeat that. He is highly regarded in his field. Repeat after me. This approach is highly effective for most learners. Again. This approach is highly effective for most learners. She is highly motivated, which is half the battle. One more time. She is highly motivated, which is half the battle. Say it. The results are highly encouraging. Your turn. The results are highly encouraging. Repeat after me. She is highly capable of handling this independently. Say it back. She is highly capable of handling this independently. I would highly recommend starting with the basics before moving to the advanced material. Echo that. I would highly recommend starting with the basics before moving to the advanced material. Say it. It is highly probable that the decision will be made by the end of the week. Repeat that. It is highly probable that the decision will be made by the end of the week. Repeat after me. He is highly valued by everyone he works with. Again. He is highly valued by everyone he works with. This method is highly adaptable to different learning styles. One more time. This method is highly adaptable to different learning styles. Say it. The approach is highly praised by educators across the sector. Your turn. The approach is highly praised by educators across the sector. Repeat after me. I consider this highly unlikely given everything I know. Say it back. I consider this highly unlikely given everything I know. Now, remarkably. Remarkably means to a surprising and impressive degree. It adds a sense of genuine surprise or admiration when something exceeds expectations. She is remarkably calm under pressure. Echo that. She is remarkably calm under pressure. Say it. He adapted to the new role remarkably quickly. Repeat that. He adapted to the new role remarkably quickly. Repeat after me. The improvement in her English has been remarkably fast. Again. The improvement in her English has been remarkably fast. It is remarkably easy once you know the pattern. One more time. It is remarkably easy once you know the pattern. Say it. She remained remarkably composed throughout the whole ordeal. Your turn. She remained remarkably composed throughout the whole ordeal. Repeat after me. The two approaches are remarkably similar despite coming from very different starting points. Say it back. The two approaches are remarkably similar despite coming from very different starting points. She has a remarkably clear way of explaining things that are genuinely complex. Echo that. She has a remarkably clear way of explaining things that are genuinely complex. Say it. The project came together remarkably smoothly, given how difficult it was. Repeat that. The project came together remarkably smoothly, given how difficult it was. Repeat after me. He is remarkably perceptive for someone so early in his career. Again. He is remarkably perceptive for someone so early in his career. She remained remarkably optimistic throughout a remarkably difficult year. One more time. She remained remarkably optimistic throughout a remarkably difficult year. Say it. It is remarkably rare to find someone who is both highly skilled and deeply humble. Your turn. It is remarkably rare to find someone who is both highly skilled and deeply humble. Now, genuinely means truly and authentically. It is used when you want to emphasize that something is real and not just polite or surface level. It adds warmth and sincerity. Repeat after me. I am genuinely impressed by what you have done here. Say it back. I am genuinely impressed by what you have done here. She genuinely cares about her students. Echo that. She genuinely cares about her students. Say it. I genuinely did not know that was going to happen. Repeat that. I genuinely did not know that was going to happen. Repeat after me. He is genuinely one of the most thoughtful people I have ever worked with. Again. He is genuinely one of the most thoughtful people I have ever worked with. I genuinely believe this approach is going to work. One more time. I genuinely believe this approach is going to work. Say it. That is genuinely one of the best things I have heard all week. Your turn. That is genuinely one of the best things I have heard all week. Repeat after me. I was genuinely taken aback by how quickly things turned around. Say it back. I was genuinely taken aback by how quickly things turned around. She genuinely enjoys the challenge, which makes her remarkable to work with. Echo that. She genuinely enjoys the challenge, which makes her remarkable to work with. Say it. I genuinely could not have done this without the support I received. Repeat that. I genuinely could not have done this without the support I received. Repeat after me. He genuinely listens, which is rarer than people think. Again. He genuinely listens, which is rarer than people think. I am genuinely excited about what comes next. One more time. I am genuinely excited about what comes next. Say it. She is genuinely one of those people who makes everyone around her better. Your turn. She is genuinely one of those people who makes everyone around her better. Repeat after me. I genuinely did not expect to feel this way about it. Say it back. I genuinely did not expect to feel this way about it. And particularly. Particularly means especially or more than usual. It adds emphasis by singling out one aspect as more notable than others. I am particularly interested in the section on pronunciation. Echo that. I am particularly interested in the section on pronunciation. Say it. She is particularly good at making complicated things feel simple. Repeat that. She is particularly good at making complicated things feel simple. Repeat after me. This week was particularly challenging for the whole team. Again, this week was particularly challenging for the whole team. I found that chapter particularly useful. One more time. I found that chapter particularly useful. Say it. He is not particularly talkative, but when he speaks, it is always worth listening. Your turn. He is not particularly talkative, but when he speaks, it is always worth listening. Repeat after me. I was particularly struck by the way she handled the question at the end. Say it back. I was particularly struck by the way she handled the question at the end. She is deeply passionate about making a real difference. Echo that. She is deeply passionate about making a real difference. Say it. I strongly advise against making any changes right now. Repeat that. I strongly advise against making any changes right now. Repeat after me. He is highly capable of managing this on his own. Again. He is highly capable of managing this on his own. I am genuinely at a loss for words. One more time. I am genuinely at a loss for words. Say it. The results are remarkably consistent across every group. Your turn. The results are remarkably consistent across every group. Repeat after me. I am particularly fond of the third section. Say it back. I am particularly fond of the third section. She is deeply aware of the responsibility she carries. Echo that. She is deeply aware of the responsibility she carries. Say it. I highly doubt that is going to change anytime soon. Repeat that. I highly doubt that is going to change anytime soon. Now, let us practice the key collocations one more time. Shadow each group clearly. Deeply collocations. Repeat after me. Deeply moved. Deeply sorry. Deeply committed. Deeply concerned. Deeply grateful. Deeply troubled. Again, deeply moved. Deeply sorry. Deeply committed. Deeply concerned. Deeply grateful. Deeply troubled. Strongly collocations. Say it. Strongly believe. Strongly recommend. Strongly disagree. Strongly suggest. Strongly object. Your turn. Strongly believe. Strongly recommend. Strongly disagree. Strongly suggest. Strongly object. Highly collocations. Repeat after me. Highly recommended. Highly unlikely. Highly skilled. Highly effective. Highly regarded. Highly motivated. Say it back. Highly recommended. Highly unlikely. Highly skilled. Highly effective. Highly regarded. Highly motivated. Now shadow this full precision adverbs conversation. What did you think of the session? I was genuinely moved by it, particularly the section on how language connects to identity. I strongly believe that part is what makes this channel different. I am deeply grateful you said that. It is something I am particularly passionate about. How would you describe the teaching style? Remarkably clear. She is highly skilled at breaking things down without losing the depth. And she is deeply committed to the learner. That comes through in everything. Do you strongly recommend it? Absolutely and without hesitation. I am genuinely convinced it works. I am deeply moved every time I hear that piece of music. Echo that. I am deeply moved every time I hear that piece of music. Say it. I strongly advise starting earlier than you think you need to. Repeat that. I strongly advise starting earlier than you think you need to. Repeat after me. She is highly regarded across the entire industry. Again, she is highly regarded across the entire industry. The timing of this is remarkably fortunate. One more time. The timing of this is remarkably fortunate. Say it. I genuinely had no idea this was going to be so useful. Your turn. I genuinely had no idea this was going to be so useful. Repeat after me. That section is particularly well written. Say it back. That section is particularly well written. He is deeply uncomfortable with confrontation, but he handles it beautifully. Echo that. He is deeply uncomfortable with confrontation, but he handles it beautifully. Say it. I highly doubt we will need to revisit this. Repeat that. I highly doubt we will need to revisit this. Repeat after me. She is genuinely one of the best at what she does. Again, she is genuinely one of the best at what she does. That is particularly relevant to what we were discussing earlier. One more time. That is particularly relevant to what we were discussing earlier. Now, let us also practice the collocations that learners most often get wrong. Shadow the correct version each time. Say it. Highly recommended. Not deeply recommended. Your turn. Highly recommended. Repeat after me. Deeply moved. Not strongly moved. Say it back. Deeply moved. Strongly suggest. Not highly suggest. Echo that. Strongly suggest. Say it. Remarkably talented. Not highly talented. Repeat that. Remarkably talented. Repeat after me. Genuinely surprised. Not deeply surprised. Again, genuinely surprised. Particularly useful. Not remarkably useful. One more time. Particularly useful. These collocations are fixed. They do not swap. Learning them as whole units is the most efficient approach. Now, shadow a second precision adverbs conversation. This one about a colleague people admire. What makes her so effective as a leader? She is genuinely interested in everyone she works with, particularly the quieter people in the room. I have noticed that she is also remarkably consistent. She treats everyone the same way regardless of their seniority. And she is deeply committed to doing the right thing even when it is difficult. Strongly even. I have seen her strongly disagree with people above her when she believed something was wrong. That takes courage. It does. She is highly respected because of it. Not just liked, actually respected. There is a difference. There is. I am genuinely inspired by how she operates. I strongly believe more leaders should be like her. Entirely agree. Before the extended conversations, I want to give you a quick section on the most common adverb mistakes at B1 to B2 level. These are the errors that native speakers notice most immediately. Mistake 1. Using very with ungradable adjectives. Very exhausted. Very furious. Very perfect. Very impossible. All wrong. These adjectives are already extreme. They need absolutely or completely or utterly. Never very. Mistake 2. Using absolutely with gradable adjectives in formal writing. Absolutely tired. Absolutely cold. Absolutely happy. These are not wrong exactly, but they sound informal. In written or professional English, use very or extremely with gradable adjectives. Mistake 3. Mixing up barely and nearly. I barely passed, meaning I did not pass, is wrong. Barely means you did just enough. Nearly means you did not quite enough. I barely passed means I passed, but only just. I nearly passed means I did not pass, but came close. The direction matters enormously. Mistake 4. Saying deeply recommended. Deeply is for emotions, not evaluations. The correct form is highly recommended. You deeply appreciate something. You highly recommend it. Mistake 5. Dropping the adverb entirely in professional contexts. I believe this is right is fine, but I strongly believe this is right is significantly more persuasive and more natural in a professional setting. Advanced speakers reach for the precision adverb automatically. Let us shadow the correct versions of all 5. Say it. I am absolutely exhausted. Not very exhausted. Your turn. I am absolutely exhausted. Repeat after me. I barely made it, meaning I just made it. Say it back. I barely made it. I nearly missed it, meaning I did not quite make it. Echo that. I nearly missed it. Say it. I would highly recommend this approach, not deeply recommend. Repeat that. I would highly recommend this approach. Repeat after me. I strongly believe we are heading in the right direction. Again, I strongly believe we are heading in the right direction. Now, let us bring all 4 categories together in 3 extended mixed conversations. First conversation. 2 colleagues after a difficult but successful project. How are you feeling now that it is over? Absolutely exhausted, honestly. I barely slept the last 3 nights. You must be deeply relieved, though. I am completely relieved. I was genuinely worried we were not going to make it. We nearly did not. What was the hardest moment? I was utterly overwhelmed on Wednesday. I hardly knew where to start, but you pulled it together remarkably quickly. I strongly believe that is what good teams do. They do not fall apart when it gets hard. I am deeply grateful for how everyone stepped up, particularly the last 2 days. How is the client feeling? Highly satisfied, apparently. They were slightly surprised by how quickly we turned things around, but entirely happy with the result. That is all we can ask for. Absolutely. Let us continue the project conversation. Was there a moment when you thought it was completely over? There was. Wednesday afternoon, I was utterly convinced we had failed. What changed? One team member came in with a remarkably simple solution. I was genuinely stunned, and everyone just got completely behind it. Instantly. Almost instantly. There was barely a moment of hesitation. How did that feel? Deeply satisfying, in a way that is hard to describe. I strongly believe that is what teams are for. Finding the thing you nearly missed. Entirely. I am particularly proud of how we held together when it was most difficult. That is the part I will remember. Me too. Absolutely. Second conversation. 2 friends discussing a life decision. I have nearly made a decision about the job. What is holding you back? I am slightly nervous about the change. I barely know anyone at the new company. That is completely understandable. But are you deeply excited about it? I am genuinely excited and strongly convinced it is the right move. I was rather hesitant at first, But the more I think about it, the more certain I feel. Then it sounds fairly clear to me. I know. I have almost talked myself into it entirely. What does your gut say? My gut is absolutely certain. It is just my head that is slightly behind. Your gut is highly reliable. I strongly suggest you listen to it. You are probably right. I hardly ever regret following my instincts. Let us continue the friends conversation. When are you going to decide? I am nearly there. I have barely slept thinking about it. That is rather telling. Is it? I think so. When you are deeply invested in something, you cannot stop thinking about it. I strongly agree with that. And what does the other side of you say? That I am slightly scared of failing. That is completely natural. Almost everyone feels that, highly capable people included. I know. I just want to be fairly sure before I leap. But you are never entirely sure. No one ever is. Hardly anyone makes a big decision from a place of complete certainty. That actually helps. I am genuinely glad. Now, decide. Third conversation. Someone talking about a language learning experience. How has the English practice been going? Remarkably well, actually. Better than I expected. What has changed? I am nearly at the point where I think in English automatically. I barely translate anymore. That is a genuinely significant shift. I am deeply proud of how far you have come. I was hardly confident 6 months ago. Now I feel fairly comfortable in most situations. Completely different person. Almost. There are still moments where I am slightly uncertain, but I strongly believe that is just part of the process. Absolutely. And you are highly motivated, which is the most important thing. I genuinely love this kind of practice. The shadowing method is utterly different from anything I tried before. I am so glad you found something that works. Keep going. You are nearly there. Let us continue the language learning conversation. What would you say to someone who is barely getting started? Start before you feel ready. I strongly believe that is the most important advice. I nearly waited until I was perfectly prepared. That would have been utterly counterproductive. Exactly. The progress you are making is remarkably fast for someone who started recently. I am genuinely surprised by it myself. Do not be. You are highly motivated and deeply committed. Those two things together are almost unstoppable. That is a genuinely kind thing to say. I mean it completely. Keep going. You are absolutely on the right path. Let us add one more extended mixed conversation before the reference run. This one about a challenging work situation. How are you holding up? Fairly well, all things considered. It has been rather an intense few weeks. I noticed you seemed slightly distracted in the last meeting. I was. I am deeply concerned about one particular aspect of the project. What is it? I strongly feel we are nearly at a point of no return on the timeline. Can you be more specific? We have barely started the testing phase, and we are already almost out of time. That is rather worrying. I know. I am somewhat reluctant to raise it formally because I do not want to seem negative, but I strongly believe you need to. Absolutely. I nearly said something last week, but held back. I deeply regret that now. Here is what I suggest. Be completely honest about where we are. Do not soften it entirely, but do not make it utterly alarming either. Slightly direct is what is needed. I strongly agree. What would you say? Something like, I am fairly confident we can resolve this, but I am genuinely concerned we need to act now. That is particularly well phrased. Thank you. I am barely sure of anything right now, but I am absolutely sure that honesty is the right approach. It always is. Now the complete reference run. Every adverb from today's session. Shadow each one clearly. Intensifiers. One more time. Absolutely exhausted. Say it. Completely wrong. Your turn. Totally absorbed. Repeat after me. Utterly speechless. Say it back. Entirely up to you. Echo that. Softeners. Say it. Slightly concerned. Repeat that. Fairly confident. Repeat after me. Rather unexpected. Again. Somewhat reluctant. One more time. A little nervous. Your turn. Near miss adverbs. Repeat after me. Barely slept. Say it back. Hardly believe. Echo that. Say it. Nearly finished. Repeat that. Almost perfect. Repeat after me. Scarcely enough time. Again. Precision adverbs. One more time. Deeply moved. Say it. Strongly recommend. Your turn. Highly skilled. Repeat after me. Remarkably calm. Say it back. Genuinely impressed. Echo that. Particularly useful. Repeat that. Now the full sentence reference run. Shadow each one. Repeat after me. I am absolutely exhausted, but completely satisfied with how it went. Again. I am absolutely exhausted, but completely satisfied with how it went. She is slightly nervous, but fairly confident in the outcome. One more time. She is slightly nervous, but fairly confident in the outcome. Say it. We barely made it, but we nearly did not. Your turn. We barely made it, but we nearly did not. Repeat after me. I am deeply grateful and genuinely impressed by everyone involved. Say it back. I am deeply grateful and genuinely impressed by everyone involved. She is highly skilled and remarkably calm under pressure. Echo that. She is highly skilled and remarkably calm under pressure. Say it. I strongly believe this is utterly the right approach. Repeat that. I strongly believe this is utterly the right approach. Repeat after me. I am somewhat uncertain, but hardly worried. Again. I am somewhat uncertain, but hardly worried. You have just shadowed every adverb group from today's session. You have completed the English adverbs that change everything session. And I want to say something about what makes adverbs so powerful. Most learners think of adverbs as decorations, optional extras that add a little color. But that is not how native speakers use them. For a native speaker, adverbs are precision tools. They carry specific information about degree, certainty, attitude, and tone that cannot be communicated any other way. When you say, I am tired, that is information. When you say, I am absolutely exhausted, that is a completely different piece of information. It tells the listener where you are on the scale, how serious it is, and how you feel about it. In one word, that is what today was building towards. Not just knowing these adverbs, but knowing which ones go with which words and why. Intensifiers with ungradable adjectives, softeners with gradable ones, near-miss adverbs to describe how close you came, and precision adverbs that collocate with specific feelings and opinions. And here is the thing about adverbs that makes today particularly valuable. Most vocabulary lessons teach you words that replace other words. A synonym for happy is cheerful. A more advanced word for big is substantial. But adverbs do not replace anything. They add a dimension that was not there before. The difference between I disagree and I strongly disagree is not just emphasis. It is a completely different piece of information about how certain and committed you are. That kind of precision is what separates good English from natural English. And I want to say something specific about why adverbs are so worth mastering at B1 to B2 level. When you are at B1 or B2, your vocabulary is generally good enough to express most ideas. Your grammar is solid enough to be understood. But something is still missing. A flatness, a sameness, a sense that every statement carries the same weight, regardless of how important or unimportant it actually is. Adverbs are the solution to that problem. They create texture. They allow you to say, I am tired, and I am absolutely exhausted, and I am slightly tired, and I am barely functioning, all in the same conversation, each one telling a completely different story. They allow you to say, I agree and I strongly agree, and I somewhat agree and I barely agree, each one carrying precise information about where you actually stand. That precision is what makes English conversations feel alive rather than flat. And it is what makes a native speaker feel that the person they are talking to is genuinely present in the language, not just performing it. Today gave you the tools. Now the practice makes them yours. Here is your 7-day practice plan. Day 1. Focus on intensifiers today. Every time you use an extreme adjective, exhausted, furious, perfect, impossible, overwhelmed, add absolutely or completely in front of it. Do not use very with these words today. Force yourself to reach for the right intensifier. If you catch yourself about to say very exhausted, stop. Say absolutely exhausted instead. That one correction repeated throughout the day will build the pattern faster than any exercise. Day 2. Focus on softeners. Every time you need to raise a concern or express mild disagreement today, use slightly, fairly, rather, or a little. Notice how differently the conversation feels when you soften the language. A good exercise for today. Take 3 things you are genuinely uncertain or mildly concerned about, and express each one using a different softener. I am slightly worried about. I am fairly uncertain whether. I am a little unsure of. That variety will help you feel the different shades of softening. Day 3. Practice barely and nearly in real sentences today. Describe 3 things that almost happened and 3 things you barely managed. Make sure you feel the difference. Barely means almost not. Nearly means almost yes. A useful test. Can you add, but I made it to the end? If yes, use barely. Can you add, but I did not quite make it? If yes, use nearly. Run 3 real examples through that test today. Day 4. Focus on deeply, strongly, and highly. Use each one in a real sentence today. Deeply for emotions, strongly for opinions, highly for quality evaluations. Notice how each one fits its context in a way the others would not. Day 5. Come back to all 4 extended conversations and shadow them again from beginning to end. Notice which adverbs feel more natural than they did the first time. Pay particular attention to the ones you found difficult. Give them an extra shadow or 2. The goal is not perfection on day 5. The goal is to notice improvement, and you will. Day 6. Focus on genuinely and remarkably. These 2 adverbs transform ordinary compliments into sincere and memorable ones. Use genuinely to add warmth. Use remarkably to show genuine admiration. Both will make the people you speak with feel more seen and valued. Day 7. Shadow the complete reference run again. Every adverb, every sentence. Notice how much more natural each one feels compared to day 1. That is real progress. That is exactly what this practice is for. And then take one adverb from each category and use it in a real conversation today. 1 intensifier, 1 softener, 1 near-miss adverb, 1 precision adverb. 4 adverbs, 4 real moments. That is the bridge between today's practice and permanent fluency. Let us do one more pass through the reference run with full mixed sentences. One more time. I am absolutely certain and completely committed to this path. Say it. She is slightly nervous but fairly confident, which is exactly the right combination. Your turn. She is slightly nervous but fairly confident, which is exactly the right combination. Repeat after me. We barely made it and nearly did not, which makes the result feel remarkable. Say it back. We barely made it and nearly did not, which makes the result feel remarkable. I am deeply grateful for the people who strongly believed in me when I hardly believed in myself. Echo that. I am deeply grateful for the people who strongly believed in me when I hardly believed in myself. Say it. She is highly skilled, remarkably calm, and genuinely one of a kind. Repeat that. She is highly skilled, remarkably calm, and genuinely one of a kind. Repeat after me. I was utterly surprised and absolutely delighted in equal measure. Again. I was utterly surprised and absolutely delighted in equal measure. I am somewhat uncertain about the details, but entirely clear about the direction. One more time. I am somewhat uncertain about the details, but entirely clear about the direction. Now let me leave you with one final shadowing sequence. This is your voice, using adverbs the way a native speaker does, with precision, with feeling, with exactly the right word in exactly the right place. Say it. I am absolutely certain I am on the right path. Your turn. I am absolutely certain I am on the right path. Repeat after me. I am slightly nervous, but mostly excited. Say it back. I am slightly nervous, but mostly excited. I have nearly reached the point where it feels natural. Echo that. I have nearly reached the point where it feels natural. Say it. I barely notice the effort anymore. Repeat that. I barely notice the effort anymore. Repeat after me. I am deeply grateful for every lesson that got me here. Again, I am deeply grateful for every lesson that got me here. I strongly believe that consistent practice is everything. One more time. I strongly believe that consistent practice is everything. Say it. I am genuinely proud of how far I have come. Your turn. I am genuinely proud of how far I have come. Repeat after me. And I am remarkably close to the English I have always wanted. Say it back. And I am remarkably close to the English I have always wanted. Take a breath and hold that. And one final thought to take with you. Every adverb you practice today is a tool for honesty. When you say, I am slightly worried, you are telling the truth at the right volume. When you say, I strongly disagree, you are being direct without being aggressive. When you say, I am genuinely grateful, you are expressing something real rather than something polite. Advanced English is not just about accuracy. It is about truth at the right volume. And adverbs are how you control that volume. And I want to say something specific about why today's 4-category structure matters beyond just organization. When you think of adverbs as a long list, very, rather, barely, deeply, absolutely, they blur together. When you think of them in 4 clear categories, you have a mental map. And that map is what lets you reach for the right adverb quickly in a real conversation. You are not scanning a list. You are choosing a direction. Do I want to intensify, soften, describe a near miss, or add precision? One decision. Then the right word follows naturally. That is the practical gift of today's structure. Not just more vocabulary, but a faster, more reliable way to access the vocabulary you already have. And one more thought before I let you go. The 4 categories in today's session are not just 4 groups of adverbs. They are 4 different relationships with language. Intensifiers say, I am fully committed to this statement. This is complete. This is total. This is absolute. Softeners say, I am aware of how this lands. I am being measured. I am considering your response. Near-miss adverbs say, I am telling you exactly where on the scale this falls. Not just good or bad, but how close to one side or the other. Precision adverbs say, I know the exact quality I am describing. Not just how much, but what kind. Together, those 4 dimensions give your English a range and a texture that most learners simply do not have. Because most learners think about what they want to say, but not about how fully, how gently, how precisely, how honestly they want to say it. Today, you practiced all 4. And the English that comes out of you from this point forward will be slightly different, slightly more alive, slightly more yours. Keep practicing, keep noticing. Use one adverb today with full intention, and one more tomorrow. Not as decoration, as precision. Your English does not improve all at once. It improves word by word, choice by choice, and every right adverb you use today makes the next one a little easier. I will see you in the next lesson. Take care of yourself, and remember, the right adverb is not extra. It is